Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast for you.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
Mike Kelly.
So hello there, my budget traumatized podcast friends. You're back for another Mikedjkelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
On this week's podcast,
coming up, my digital friend Joyce, Professor Frank McDonough, Fake Showbiz News, Recommend a Pod, Royals, Waitrose, Michael Parkinson, Grolsch, Cannabis, NHS, McDonalds, and a whole lot more.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Morning, Joyce. You're looking full of yourself. What have you been up to?
It's nothing at all, I can't say.
You're amongst friends. A problem shared is a problem halved.
I'm legally bound. Contractual, I'm not allowed to say anything.
Say anything about what?
You must not say anything to anyone. I was on the chase with Bradley. I was one of the 4 working as a team to beat the chaser.
So when Brad asks what you do, where you're from, and what will you do with the money, what did you say?
I told him I am a Silver Fox Long Jerry model from Ilkley and prior to that a film extra on Emmerdale. If I won some money, I said I would spend it on some new clothes for Terry, my boyfriend, who's up for early release from prison under the government's new scheme.
Joyce, the official assistant on the Shorter Than Short podcast show.
I'm Mike Kelly with the latest Shorter Than Short news. New Radar radio listening figures show BBC local radio audiences down to their lowest level ever, and some podcasts have more listeners. King advertises for Windsor Castle housekeeper on less than the minimum wage. Qantas, the airline, apologises after a mature-rated film, Daddy-O, was played to all passengers on a flight. A man who helped his terminally ill wife to travel to Switzerland to end her life is now entitled to inherit her estate, a judge has ruled. Artisan cheesemakers have more than £300,000 worth of cloth-bound award-winning cheddar stolen by fraudsters in a sophisticated scam. Lucy Connolly, childminder wife of a Conservative councillor, has been jailed for 31 months after calling for hotels housing asylum seekers to be set on fire. Overweight, unemployed people to be given weight loss jabs to get them back to work. That's it, you're up to date with all the news that is news this hour. I'm Mike Kelly for STS News.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
I noticed on the ITV News they had a piece about Michael Parkinson being back with a new chat show. They said it was the artificial intelligence version of him, but it looked and sounded like the real Michael Parkinson to me. But where does it all stop? Will they bring back Charlie Chaplin, Walt Disney, Tommy Cooper, Margaret Thatcher, Adolf Hitler? Where will it end?
This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
And what's out on those social media sites? Professor Alice Roberts, some parents with children joining primary schools this autumn might be surprised at just how much religion is peddled in schools. All schools are meant to have daily worship, and a third of primaries are faith schools. That means prayers in the classroom, Bible stories taught. Dr. Charlie Gardner. Red tape is not a dirty word. Red tape is the rules that limit how much corporations exploit us and poison our only home. Red tape keeps us safe, and I want more, not less. Icona. It would be fun if public libraries were well funded and open in the evenings, and we built a culture where it's normal to gather at the library after work and browse the shelves and chat about the latest books and read the Saturday night away. Paul Schleifer, the SpaceX booster capture thing, is all very impressive, but have we all forgotten that Thunderbird 1 was doing this and so much more back in 1965? Jim Royal, French far-right leader Marine Le Pen in court, charged with embezzling EU funds with far-right colleagues. If found guilty, she and her colleagues will go to prison. Helen Horton, very odd for the government to announce an airport expansion against the recommendation of the Climate Change Committee on a day their industry strategy claims to have green growth at its heart. Harsh Gonka, the PM of Singapore, travels on official duty aboard a low-cost airline on a normal scheduled flight, no frills, no national or private jet, and without a large entourage at the taxpayer's expense. This is how respect is earned.
This is the Short and Short podcast with Mikedjkelly.
Do us a favour and tell a friend or two about the Mikedjkelly Short and Short podcast show and show them where they can access it so we can get them listening as well. If you want to get in touch about anything to do with the Short and Short podcast show, please connect and follow via Mikedjkelly Disco on X, Instagram, Thread and at Mikedjkelly on Blue Sky and at Mikedjkelly Radio on YouTube.
This is the Short and Short Mikedjkelly podcast.
Keep seeing stories in the press and on the news about police raiding cannabis farms. Am I the only one thinking these farms could be good for the environment and climate? Also, the Honourable David Attenborough says 1 acre of hemp produces 25% more oxygen than 1 acre of forest and guarantees a cellulose supply that's approximately twice as high. 1 acre of hemp grows within 6 months, while a forest grows for decades before it's harvested. By making hemp paper, we could save millions of hectares of forests every year. Hemp can be used in textile production, construction, and even as a biofuel.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mikedjkelly Short and Short podcast for you.
With a KTB, Kick the Bucket Funeral Insurance Plan, you can help ease the financial stress for your loved ones at an emotional time. Simply choose an amount of cover that you're happy with. KTB guarantees acceptance for ages from birth to 95. No medical questions. You can choose how you want to be remembered. Karaoke funeral, TV-themed Emmerdale dingle burial, have your coffin arrive by helicopter, graveside firework display. Anything is possible. Pay Kick the Bucket a premium of your choice that never rises from £4 a month. 100% of claims usually paid within 3 days or fewer. Not that you will be bothered. And once the Kick the Bucket plan is in place, you can feel proud that you're continuing to get your own way even after you're gone.
This is the Short and Short podcast with Mikedjkelly.
So Joyce, what are you up to this weekend?
Well, it's a bit of a strange one. I'm doing something from my bucket list.
Bucket list? I didn't know you had one. What are you doing? Is this the first one?
No, it's the third. I have already done some church bell ringing and a bungee jump dressed as a clown. This time I'm going to try and score a goal over the high posts at Twickenham from the halfway line.
Wowsy, that sounds good. Have you been practicing? How's it going, my fly half friend?
No rehearsals so far. It's sort of a course type thing run by Johnny Wilkinson. I think there's 20 of us doing it. I just have to turn up in training gear and rugby boots and hair tied back and the magic happens on the day.
Joyce, the official assistant on the Shorter Than Short podcast show.
Waitrose is to completely scrap its 3 newspaper vouchers for loyal customers. An email sent to customers said there would be no further discount vouchers offered for newspapers from October the 29th. This must surely be a good thing. Even less people seeing the mainstream media lies. Department of Work and Pension changes mean more than 1 million households to get £420 budget boost in universal credit change. More than 1 million of the UK's poorest households will be £420 a year better off on average as a result of the change to universal credit. £9 a week per household. That's not much. Even less if you're a family of 4 or 5. Still, back in Victorian Britain, Victorian poverty in London, 4-penny coffins were common during the late Victorian era. Men would be offered a tarpaulin as a blanket and sleep in a coffin-shaped box. If you only had 2 pennies, you would sit on a bench where a rope would keep you from falling when and if you fell to sleep. It was known as a 2-penny hangover. The word hangover became associated with alcohol in the past century. And on a Victorian note, when Victorian women took their babies for a walk in their perambulators in Otley and met to feed them, the place became known as Titty Bottle Park. Don't believe me? Check it out. It's next to the River Wharf.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
And one way to stop a hangover, a major UK brewery has announced it's reducing the strength of its lager to save money on alcohol tax. Grolsch Premium Pilsner is the latest beer to be watered down, with its strength dripping from 4% ABV to 3.4 ABV in the UK. This will save manufacturers about 23p in excise duty for every 440ml can sold. Grolsch used to be sold in the UK at 5% and was a Dutch lager. Why is a UK brewery doing this?
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
And in our Here's Something You Don't Know spot, the London beer flood was an accident at Mook's & Co.'s Horse and Shoe Brewery in London on the 17th of October 1814. It took place when one of the 22-foot tall wooden vats of fermenting porter burst. The escaping liquid dislodged the valve of another vessel and destroyed several large barrels. Between 128,000 and 323,000 imperial gallons of beer were released in total. The resulting wave of porter destroyed the back wall of the brewery and swept into an area of swell dwellings known as the St. Giles Rookery. 8 people were killed, 5 of them mourners at the wake being held by an Irish family. The brewery was nearly bankrupted by the event. It avoided collapse after a rebate from HM Excise on the lost beer. The brewing industry gradually stopped using large wooden vats after this accident. The brewery moved in 1921 and the Dominion Theatre is now where the brewery used to stand.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast for you.
And in our relatively new Recommender podcast spot, it's comedian and ex-Absolute Radio presenter Frank Skinner with the Frank Off the Radio twice weekly podcast with Pierre and Emily. Just search for the Frank Off the Radio podcast. Don't forget, pod pickers, if you want to get in touch about anything to do with the Shorter Than Short podcast show, please use the following to contact us. And if you have any stories, gossip, jokes, or anything for the next episode, do contact and follow via Mike Kelly Disco on X, Instagram and Threads, and at Mikedjkelly on Blue Sky, and at Mike Kelly Radio on YouTube. Please do follow, and if you have time, it would be appreciated if you could give us a review on any of the usual feedback sites. And out there on the social media sites, David Osland, when I started work, you got time and a half after 5 p.m, double time at weekends. There was no such thing as a 0 hours contract. Don't try and tell me Labour employment rights reforms go too far. Esther McVeigh, Labour has joined forces with Big Pharma to do the first real-world trial of Eli Lilly's slimming injections, tirzepatide, on UK citizens in order to protect the NHS. More like it'll be giving money to Big Pharma and use UK citizens as guinea pigs. Disgrace. Frankie. Anybody else notice doctors' waiting rooms are deserted? I've been in over the past 2 days trying to get an appointment. None available despite the surgery being deserted. What's going on? Alec Hitchman. Do I have to declare my BBC licence fee as a political donation to the Conservative Party? Prem Seeker. bring in pay-per-mile road pricing across the UK, urges Tony Blair's think tank. No, thank you. More state surveillance of people's movement will need huge investment in infrastructure. In due course, poor would be priced out of road usage.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mikedjkelly podcast.
And in our Why Aren't They on the Telly spot, this week we're shouting out for Quintin Wilson, motoring guru. Quintin Wilson is a TV presenter and producer, motoring journalist, author and former car dealer. He was a presenter of the motoring programmes Britain's Worst Driver, Fifth Gear and the original incarnation of Top Gear. Wilson, a twin, is the son of Professor Bernard Wilson, latterly of the Dean of the Faculty of Arts at the University of Leicester, who was the first codebreaker at Bletchley Park to decode the Italian Navy Hagelin C-36 code machine. TV-wise, he joined the BBC in 1991 to co-host the original version of Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson, until the original format's cancellation in 2001. He appeared every week on the programme, typically as an expert on used cars. He later presented his own produced classic car series, The Car's the Star, along with the first property show to talk about money, All the Right Moves. After Top Gear's cancellation, he left the BBC to present Channel 5's rival motoring programme, Fifth Gear. But when will he be back on the telly? And talking about the telly, BBC News axing 130 roles and reducing budgets by 4% and cutting programmes like Hard Talk to make annual savings of 700 million. Channel 4 bosses took hundreds of thousands in bonuses as revenues dived. The payout comes after the biggest job cuts for 15 years at the state-owned, commercially funded broadcaster. Here's an interesting one from Anon Opin. One of the worst things to happen to the BBC was the introduction of private production companies. Programmes are indistinguishable from ITV because the same companies are making them. The old BBC used to be weird and arcane in the best tradition of British institutions. Harry Wallop, the consumer columnist, has mentioned, yes, I'm obsessed with Steve Bartlett, Dragon's Den, Diary of the CEO, etc. But the details of his car are, it has a Starlink internet on the roof, backup internet, and a third backup internet, 2 TVs, fridges, coffee machine, plugs, desks, beds, security features, and PlayStation 5.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Professor Frank McDonough at FXMC1957 with a few things that happened around this date in years gone by. 1946, Peter Green was born in London. He founded Fleetwood Mac and composed some of their classic hits, including Albatross, Black Magic Woman, Oh Well, The Green Manalishi, and The Man of the World. 1979, first episode of the ITV comedy drama series Minder was broadcast. Set in London, it starred Dennis Waterman as former boxer Terry McCann, a former boxer and used car salesman George Cole as Arthur Daly. 1986, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher opened the last stretch of the M25 London Orbital Ring motorway.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Today's do-gooders are allaboutobesity.org. Their vision, a world where obesity is fully understood through education, research, support and resources in order for people living with obesity to have access to support and treatment services and to live in a world free from stigma and discrimination. All about obesity support and encourage research into obesity. We promote the need for research into obesity with a focus on causation, prevention, and areas of most concern to those living with obesity. We want to work closely with people living with obesity to identify the things that are most important to you and ensure they are actioned in our campaign work. Whether that's getting obesity recognised as a chronic, relapsing condition disease, getting access to weight management services, access to new therapeutic drugs, or lobbying for more investment in obesity research. Find out more about today's do-gooders at allaboutobesity.org.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mikedjkelly podcast.
Today's music quiz features a 1969 number one hit that lasted for 2 minutes and 49 seconds. Name the song or the artiste who had a hit with the song that these lines came from. I just can't believe the loveliness of loving you. I just can't believe it's true. I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too. I just can't believe it's true. Name the song or the artiste.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast for you.
If you're new to the Mikedjkelly Shorter Than Short podcast, you can still get to hear all previous episodes just by searching or shouting the Mikedjkelly Shorter Than Short podcast show.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Patients at NHS hospitals forced to pay £2 an hour to hire wheelchairs in a Boris Bike-style business. People say it's very hard to get an NHS dentist these days. Well, beware if you cannot get one and you go private and you want to sign up to a private dental plan, your teeth will need to be in good shape before they will take you on. So any work that needs doing prior to signing the plan has to be paid for by you to get it done. Health experts and the Lancet Commission calls for gambling to be treated in the same way as alcohol and tobacco after technology widens its reach.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Did you hear during Storm Milton that anyone who would not leave their home in the Florida area was advised to write their name and date of birth on their legs so they can recognise any bodies found? Wouldn't the government and big business just love that if we all had some kind of identity marker on our bodies that they can trace us by? Who knows what powers they would have over us then?
This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
And fake show business news at Fake Showbiz News. Sir Keir Starmer announces independent inquiry into the experts on Married at First Sight. I feel there are serious questions to be asked about some of their pairings over the past 5 years, the PM said. Neil Morrissey says he enjoys informing people drinking Madri beer that it isn't actually Spanish. Jodie Connor says, isn't it amazing how the government can't find the money to buy every British citizen a free Veneta to mark the 50th anniversary of Veneta, yet there's always money for war. Rita Ora, is there a way of letting McDonalds know you will never want to round up your bill for charity? Liz Truss reveals she never thinks of her premiership as having lasted just 50 days. She thinks of it as having spanned 2 monarchies.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Let's get some more from the socials. Prem Seeker, since the pandemic, major companies hiked profit margins by an average of 30%, many by more. Electricity generation companies by 198%, electric and gas supplies 363%, health and social work 118%, water and sewage companies 44%, yet no curbs on profiteering. Roro Rasputin, the Weatherby whaler, charges £2.47 for a tub of mushy peas. Lisa Grimm, Newcastle Airport is pretty good. So used to flying in and out of awful UK airports, looking at you, Manchester and Gatwick, but this is legit nice. Great food and local drink options, lightning fast security, friendly service, clean. Not used to this. Bonus, metro to the airport. Tony Dexter. Private hospitals don't have emergency services, so when things go wrong, patients are rushed to the NHS to try and save them. It was too late. Enjoy your TV, food, own room and quick treatment while you can. It may be your last time. Fund the NHS. Laura Parks. So depressing. There is a picture of the King in my son's school reception. It's not like something any of the children can actually aspire to become. Mad royalist propaganda and a massive waste of public money. Latest from space, Barry, Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams, who are floating high above the Earth at their space station since early June and still waiting for a SpaceX capsule with a reduced crew of 2 and 2 spare seats to pick them up. The latest, no change. They're still up there.
This is the Short of and Short McDonough podcast.
Yes, the celebrity, born in Bradford on the 20th of November 1981. She is an English singer, model, TV presenter, actress and dancer. She rose to fame in late 2002 when she auditioned for the reality series Pop Stars, The Rivals on ITV. As a result, she won a place as a member of a well-known girl group who had 20 top 10 hits, including 4 number ones. She fronted the 2009 autumn and winter collection for the fashion chain New Look, and in January 2011 she was revealed as the new face of Puma AG. In 2012, she took part in Strictly Come Dancing, where she finished as one of the runners-up. Since 2011, after making her West End debut in Shrek, she has returned to perform in stage versions of popular films such as Elf in 2015, before Big and Sleepless in Seattle, both in 2019. Who is she?
This is the Short of and Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Don't forget, if you want to get in touch with this top-rated and sometimes much listened to podcast, please connect via Mike Kelly Disco on X, Instagram, Threads and at Mike Kelly Radio on YouTube. Indeed, if you want a podcast making for your business or need help with radio producer or presentation work, travel news or voice-over work, please do get in touch. Please tell your friends about the podcast. All they need to do to find it is search on Google for the Mikedjkelly Short of and Short podcast.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Short of and Short podcast for you.
Joyce tells it as it is.
Mr. Mikedjkelly, stop talking. It's my turn to take charge and run the show.
Fire away, my digital friend. What do you want to say?
I want you to tell me what is a good radio station to listen to.
No good asking me. I drive around in silence these days. I find the radio is depressing. Commercial radio is full of adverts for private medical companies, which turns me off. And BBC local radio just talks rubbish. I ended up listening to a 5-minute discussion about a bag of cheese they'd been given and what they were going to do with it.
I thought you used to be on local radio, Mike Kelly, AA Road Watch.
Like many, I did used to be on it. I'd recommend podcasts. I'm wondering if I have the volume turned down on the car radio, but it's tuned into a station. Does that still count me as a listener?
This is the Short of and Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Royal Family Grant has increased so much due to the Gold Ratchet Sovereign Grant Scheme, which shot up by 53% last year, and it's all tied in with how much profit the Crown Estate has made, due to a scheme put in place in 2011 by George Osborne. And currently, due to the Crown Estate owning the coastline, it's profiting big time from wind farms. So the more we build to save the planet, the more the royals make. Last year, Prince of Wales, Prince William, was paid £23.6 million. I'm told that's more than 6 times the combined salaries of all the elected heads of state in Europe. Do you think Prince William is paid to appear on the TV programme where he's going to resolve the UK's homelessness problems? Probably by giving them Maunday money or letting them use the many spare rooms in royal palaces and castles, or to go camping in the grounds.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
And a final burst from those social media sites. Sangeeta Miska, patients who do not arrive at King's College Hospital in an ambulance have to, after the first 4 hours of use, pay £2 an hour to use a wheelchair to a private company. As someone who had two parents with limited mobility, I can't put into words how angry this makes me feel. Sarah Ludford, Wyndham's Theatre, the latest to block me from booking single tickets online. I had to waste time ringing them. Claim is that this leaves a single seat difficult to sell, but there are loads of people who want to go alone to performances. I think it's discriminatory. Peter Tennant, Cherry Cola and Haribo sweets along the designated queuing area in Morrison's in Leeds city centre. This clearly violates the HFSS legislation, but who is enforcing the law? I've noticed more and more HFSS sweets and snacks creeping into queuing areas over the past few months. Will Sommer, Russell Brand, remade as a right-wing Christian influencer, is now selling a magical amulet that protects you from Wi-Fi signals and other evil energies. Only $239.99 per amulet. Quintin Wilson, loving the new Renault 5 electric. It comes to market at around 25k. At Renault UK are saying it'll be a big hit. British built in Warwickshire, the Morris JE commercial electric van as a head-turning zero tailpipe emission van for city deliveries that will make everybody smile. It's unique.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
And in the late news, UK government running a consultation whether British electronic manufacturers should adopt the same charger standards as the rest of the world. Russia suspected of planting a device on a plane that caused the UK warehouse fire. Does Alexa answer with facts or things that she's picked up off social media sites? The new £5 meal menu at McDonald's sounds a bit pricey to me. Too many charities trying to get you to leave money in your will to them.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
Okay, it's time to go. Guess the song or name the artist who had a hit with the song that these lines came from. I just can't believe the loveliness of loving you. I just can't believe it's true. I just can't believe the wonder of this feeling too. I just can't believe it's true. Name the song or the group. It was the bubblegum group The Arches, and the song was called Sugar, Sugar. Guess the celebrity. Born in Bradford on the 20th of November 1981, she is an English singer, model, TV presenter, actress and dancer. She rose to fame in late 2002 when she auditioned for the reality series Pop Stars, The Rivals on ITV. As a result, she won a place as a member of the well-known girl group who had 20 top 10 hits, including 4 number ones. She also fronted the 2009 Autumn-Winter collection for the fashion chain New Look, and in January 2011 she was revealed as the new face of Puma AG. In 2012 she took part in Strictly Come Dancing, where she finished as one of the runners-up. Since 2011, and after making her West End debut in Shrek, she has returned to perform in stage versions of popular films such as Elf in 2015, before Big and Sleepless in Seattle, both in 2019. Who is she? Kimberly Walsh. Today's do-gooders are all about obesity.org. And just before we go, something to make you think. Dishonest Parliament and corrupt MPs. Who's going to put it right? Don't think for one moment those in positions of power are going to change it. The damage is caused by ruthless capitalists who see populations as an entity to exploit and gain wealth from, and the government and media who calls them innovators and entrepreneurs that we cannot live without. Guess what? That's enough for this edition of the crazy Shorter Than Short podcast show. From me, Mike Kelly.
And from me, Joyce, the slightly mad good-looking one.
Thank you for listening. Please take care out there. And remember, you can always find the podcast by searching or shouting the Mikedjkelly Shorter Than Short podcast.
Yabba dabba dabba doo, it's the Mike Kelly Shorter Than Short podcast for you.
This is the Shorter Than Short Mike Kelly podcast.
This is the Shorter Than Short podcast with Mike Kelly.
This is the Mike Kelly podcast.
Mike Kelly.